Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban. An Oscar-winning actress and a country music.
Nicole Kidman has made her first public appearance since her split from Keith Urban.
We've been through a lot together.
We've got a timeline for it now, and the time is
icon who triumphed over adversity, were viewed for over 2 decades as the ideal Hollywood Nashville romance. However, behind the duets and red carpets, everything were collapsing. After 19 years, Nicole filed for divorce, according to court records. Insiders claim she battled to keep the marriage intact. His first public performance after the separation featured changed lyrics that alluded to a rewritten history. No wedding ring, and no love song for Nicole. The image of the golden couple has crumbled, and Nicole's side is at last coming to light. We examine what led to the conclusion of one of Hollywood's most famous love tales and what made them so adored. Nicole, the shy dreamer turned Hollywood royalty Nicole Mary Kidman was born in Honolulu, Hawaii in 1967 to Australian parents who were temporarily overseas. Her mother, Janelle Kidman, was a teacher and nurse, while her father, Anthony Kidman, was a scientist and clinical psychologist. The family moved back to Sydney when she was still a little child, and she was raised in a home that valued ambition and discipline. Young Nicole was excruciatingly bashful, in contrast to the intelligent, composed person she subsequently became. Her teachers were concerned that she lacked confidence because she would blush so much when asked to speak in class. However, that shyness was accompanied by a vivid imagination. In order to communicate the feelings she found difficult in everyday life, she turned to performance, first in ballet, then in drama lessons, and ultimately in youth theatrical groups. Her brilliance was evident by the time she was in her teens. She took advantage of the booming Australian film industry at the time, gaining parts in television shows before being chosen for the cult horror BMX Bandits in 1983. She stood out due to her height and porcelain features. But directors were persuaded that she was meant for more by her emotional range. Hollywood began to call around the late 1980s. Nicole met Tom Cruise, her first significant love and sorrow during her ascent. They were one of the most photographed couples in Hollywood. After getting married in 1990, Nicole experienced both grief and prestige from the marriage. Tom's faith, Scientology, cast a lengthy shadow on their marriage, although she seldom discusses those years in detail. It is commonly known that she lost both her husband and primary custody of their 2 adopted children, Isabella and Connor, when the marriage collapsed in 2001. This was a deep wound. Nicole felt deprived of motherhood itself and pushed to the periphery of her children's lives, friends subsequently disclosed. The breakup would turn into one of the most significant traumas in the life of a woman who yearned for a family of her own. She was determined to reconstruct the dream of house and family she had lost when she subsequently met Keith Urban, which may not have been a coincidence. In the same year as Nicole, Keith, the troubled dreamer with a guitar, Keith Lionel Urban, was born in Whangarei, New Zealand, across the Tasman Sea. When he was young, his family relocated to Queensland, Australia, where he developed a restless, rebellious attitude that was always looking for a way out. In addition to running a convenience store, his father Bob had a strong interest in country music, which is not particularly popular in suburban Australia. He inspired little Keith to take up the guitar, and by the time he was 6 years old, he was performing. Despite his extraordinary musical ability, his family life was less amicable. Despite the fact that country music, with its stories of tragedy and redemption, afforded him both identification and healing, he reportedly came from a tense and financially struggling household, which would have influenced his lifelong need for security. He developed both his sound and his persona as the brooding country outsider with a rock star's edge, while performing in talent shows and small bars in his teens. He quickly left school to focus entirely on his musical career. There was no backup plan for Keith. His only means of escape was through music, yet his skill was accompanied with demons. He was already dabbling with booze and other substances by the time he was in his 20s. When fame finally came, it didn't calm him down. Instead, it increased the pandemonium. Hungry for fame, he relocated to Nashville in the early 1990s. After years of hard work on the road, His breakthrough came in 1999 with his self-titled American debut album. Keith, who was renowned for his guitar skills, unkempt hair, and longing-filled voice, became the newest sensation in country music. Behind the scenes, though, the success was tinged with self-destruction.
He had already been in and out of rehab by the time he met
Nicole in 2005. He was constantly afraid that his addictions would destroy everything he had worked so hard to achieve. On paper, Nicole and Keith appeared to come from quite different backgrounds, a conflict between Nashville grit and Hollywood prestige. The burden they carried was what truly connected them. Nicole was afraid of power and treachery since she was scarred by a marriage and a lost family. Keith had the erratic temperament of a man who had experienced both stardom and obscurity but had never fully overcome the desire to undermine himself. Both were at pivotal moments when their paths eventually came together. With an Academy Award for the Hours and a solid reputation as one of the best actors of her generation, Nicole had come out of her divorce stronger than ever. After 10 years of upheaval, she was still emotionally raw and yearned for security. In the meantime, Keith was a rising star who was making a name for himself in the fiercely competitive world of American country music. However, he was being driven to the brink by the demands of a profession that values image just as much as sound. The trappings of fame, constant touring, and temptation, he required an anchor. Someone who could give him hope that there was more to life than the stage lights. It is impossible to ignore the foreshadowing while looking back. Keith's restless, compulsive nature was always going to clash with her need for stability and control. Their coupling bore the seeds of future strife, but it also carried the promise of healing. Perhaps she could reconstruct the family she had lost, and he could find redemption in her constancy. Being in a relationship with another star was risky for Nicole. She had learned the harshness of the public eye from her marriage to Tom Cruise, but when she recognized softness, even fragility, in Keith, her protective instincts were triggered. She served as both a mirror and a muse for him. Her success and self-control brought attention to his own instability, while her love gave him the opportunity to develop into the man he had always desired. Their early experiences had shaped them into complicated, damaged people. Crossing paths and fairy tale romance when Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban finally met in 2005. It was publicized as a tale straight out of Hollywood fantasy. But in reality, it was more like volatile chemistry. Two Australians who were both international celebrities, born in the same year, and toughened by their past hardships, collided just when their lives appeared to be about to take a turn for the better. The relationship was more about two wounded individuals clinging to the possibility of salvation than it was about fate, despite the glossy magazines and red carpets portraying their encounter as such. The first spark appeared at the GJ dinner, which honored Australians employed in Hollywood. In Los Angeles in January 2005, Nicole had just recovered from the turmoil of her divorce from Tom Cruise. But by then she had established herself as an Oscar-winning actress. Conversely, Keith was a budding singer whose songs were beginning to gain popularity. She later said that she didn't think he was interested when they were first acquainted. Despite exchanging numbers, he didn't give her a call for months. He was courteous but restrained. Years later, she admitted that his initial lack of approach almost put an end to the romance before it started. But when he eventually reached out, something connected. Once their romance started, it progressed swiftly. They were shown together by May, and by the end of the year, she was referring to him in interviews as the man who had captured her heart. He stood for freedom to her because she had experienced the oppressive scrutiny of her marriage to Tom. In every aspect, he was more raw, passionate, and unpolished than Tom Cruise. She was a symbol of grace, legitimacy, and a stabilizing influence that Keith had never experienced. By November, he was accompanying Nicole on red carpet events as both her partner and a date. The press fell deeply in love with the couple because of their clear connection. The golden children of Australia had met in America. Just over a year after they started dating, in June 2006, they were married in an opulent ceremony at the Cardinal Chiretti Memorial Chapel on Sydney's Manly Peninsula. He looked every bit the romantic troubadour with his signature long hair. while she wore a Balenciaga gown with a dramatic veil. Hollywood celebrities and country music icons graced the guest list, but the event's intimacy told the true tale. He reportedly serenaded her throughout the reception as she entered the chapel by candlelight, suppressing her tears. Fans saw it as the ideal conclusion to their own difficult pasts. After enduring the domineering hold of her last lover, Nicole had discovered a man who seemed to love her without conditions. In the meantime, Keith had found atonement in the arms of one of the most renowned actresses in the world. Sadly, reality